Today is a very exciting day for Minecraft because finally, something that I and many others have wanted in the game for years has actually been added. The ability to colour in beds. So as you can see, all 16 different colours are available, and the way that you craft it is by placing some wood down at the bottom, and then you place the colour of the bed that you want into the top section, and that will give you your specific bed type. Now this does mean that if you mix and match different types of wool, unfortunately you aren't going to get any bed. There's no like default bed colour, which means that if you're going out shearing or on the first night, you're actually going to have to find same coloured sheep to be able to craft the bed, which could be a little bit challenging, but of course these things are fantastic, so I don't really care. Another way that you can get the different colours is if you grab yourself a white bed and place that inside the crafting bench, you can see that we can dye this thing. Now it has to be a white bed. If you try and dye any different colours, for example this lime bed right here, unfortunately that isn't going to work. Oh, and while we're talking about crafting things, apparently this new crafting system right here has become a lot more stable in the latest snapshot. There are a handful of issues with duplicating items and other bits and pieces like that, and those should now all be fixed. Another new feature that's been added to beds is the ability to bounce on them, which is quite a bit of fun. As you can see, we can walk off the edge right here and we bounce up and down. Now one thing that I was interested in is the bounce comparable to that of slime blocks? And by the look of things, slime blocks are still considerably more powerful. So there was me getting really excited about the fact that we were now going to have an immovable bounce block, but by the look of things, these are still just a little bit better. And then I thought to myself, well, because these things aren't particularly bouncy, these would be brilliant to put at like the bottom of gigantic drop holes so that we could just land on top of them and walk off. But by the look of things, yeah, that's not going to be particularly brilliant. You still take damage if you land on top of a bed, despite the fact that they're bouncing. Obviously, advancements are now a new thing in the latest snapshots, and they're going to guide the player through the game. So now they've become just a little bit more descriptive. We've now got a title, and then also a little description underneath, which tells the player exactly what they have to do. So mine stone with your new pickaxe. If we grab ourselves a wooden pickaxe right here, and then try and locate some stone, we should see that we will get the advancement thing. So first off, we have got the new recipes unlocked. I'll get onto that in a little bit. But also we got the advancement popping up, which means that if we pop into this area right here, getting an upgrade, construct a better pickaxe, and then acquire hardware, smelt an iron ingot. So there's a lot of action happening in the top right hand corner. And one new thing that's been tweaked is the pop-ups that say what has been added into the recipe book. So for example, if we grab ourselves some quartz, you can see that new recipes unlocked, check your recipe book. Now if we take a look in the recipe book, you can see that we now have the redstone comparator and any other things that involve quartz, for example the block of quartz and other bits and pieces just like that. According to the patch notes, that little system right there is called the toast system. Can anyone explain down in the comment section? I'd really love to know. The narrator was a pretty big addition in the early snapshots, and now it has been tweaked just a tiny bit due to people complaining that it would get ridiculously spammy ridiculously quickly. So now you can tell the narrator what you actually want it to narrate.
Narrator, narrate.
So that's the default setting, narrating everything. So if I put hey in the chat, it says what I said, but also if I set the time to 1000,
set the time to 1000,
it will also announce that. Then narrator, if I switch it over to just chat, if I do the same thing,
Mumbo hey,
you can see that it doesn't narrate system commands, but then you also have the ability to just narrate system commands. So if I say hey, nothing, and if I put set time to 1000,
set the time to 1000.
You guys get the idea. Stairs and upside down stairs have also received a little bit of a tweak. So originally you couldn't place torches or redstone torches or snow layers on top of upside down ones. That has now all been changed. But most importantly, fence posts, glass planes, and also walls now connect up into the stairs. But they only connect up on ones that have a full block facing in towards them. So as you can see, these two have their full block facing towards the wall, and that means it's connecting up, whereas these have a kind of uneven side going across like that, which means that the wall won't connect to them, which I think is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. That's the way it should be. And as I say, that works with fence posts and also glass panes as well. And iron bars. I always forget iron bars. I've probably forgotten something else as well. And one more thing about stairs is the fact that you can now place torches on the back sides of them as well, which could actually be pretty handy. This might be the only transparent block that you can place redstone on top of that you can have a redstone torch on the side of. I'm not 100% certain on that one, but that seems pretty likely. I have no idea if this sort of thing is useful or not. There's a chance. There's a chance that it could be handy in some certain way. You guys are going to have to experiment with this as well. There have been a number of different bug fixes in this snapshot. Most of them are just purely functional, but I'm going to go through all of the ones with the parrots. So number one is that they've tweaked parrots flying because they tend to fly around in circles, which isn't particularly exciting. They also can now drown if they're on your shoulder, but they don't seem to like water. They seem to kind of jump off and fly away, which I would say is pretty smart. But also, parrots on your shoulder can also burn in lava, so be very careful there. Parrots used to go invisible in a lot of situations. That has now also been fixed. Your tamed dogs will no longer attack your tamed parrots, and due to the different changes in pets and things like that, I think there were other issues there that are now all fixed as well. And also, parrots were impossible, or pretty much impossible to find in the jungles. They were extremely rare in there, but now that has been tweaked, and they should spawn more often. Now I will put a full list of all of the changes down in the description. If you do want to read it in a little bit more detail, there might be something in there that you will pick up on. Obviously there are occasionally Easter eggs in these snapshots, so I apologise if I've missed anything, and I'll put any big changes down in the comment section, and I will pin that so that it stays right the way at the top. But this snapshot has been pretty awesome. I'm very, very excited for it. I hope you guys are too, and I'll catch you in the next video.